BayRadio International on a Tuesday. No, it's not a glitch. It's the original Truth Socialite, added to no one's group chat, but always in the know from the heart of pathetic freeloading Europe. Would you please welcome our US correspondent, Rich Reynolds?
It's not the glitch, it's the rich.
It's a glitch.
you know, I've got a question about that song. Do you remember when you used to get the albums on vinyl? Mm-hmm. Okay, now it's big again. But the Commodore's discs used to be red. Do you remember that?
I thought they were on Epic. I'm not sure. Can't remember.
No. The albums were red.
Oh, you mean vinyl was red?
The vinyl was red.
Yeah, they're back in the day.
I remember that. Occasionally you'd get, like, Motown did this all the time, sent out stuff. Because I think Commodores were on Motown. I think.
They were.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, a lot of the Motowns, they were
the blue Motown.
They were blue. Yeah. But I remember the Commodore stuff used to their discs used to be in red.
Things. I've got some Ramones on yellow vinyl. The best ones were the Cars singles. Remember that there was a blue. The first one, Best Friend's Girl, was red, and then Just What I Needed was blue. I think the one after that was green, but it was always the same picture of the car.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there you go.
Pretty great. Listen to your Uncle Cal and your Uncle Rich, and go out and get yourself some colored vinyl. Go find them.
Worth some money, some of those these days, you know. Anyway, I know you're just trying to detract from what's been going on stateside.
Nope.
Because, hey, you know.
We're loaded, baby. We're loaded.
We had a full bag last night, and then... The news gods shined upon us once again. The news breaking from the magazine The Atlantic. Editor Jeffrey Goldberg reporting that he'd been added to a chat on the Signal app from an account labelled White House National Security Advisor Michael Waltz. Also in the chat were other accounts appearing to belong to Vice President J.D. Vance and Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth. The journalist witnessed people appearing to be government officials using the group to organise an airstrike on the Yemen Houthi group, which killed 53 people. Members also criticised Europe for freeloading. Plenty more besides. Trump's trying to play this down. He says it's a non-story. What?
Well, he also says it's a non-story, but he also said the first thing he did was when he found out about it, or at least we know he
didn't know about it.
He really didn't know about this. It looks like the guys that work for him were kind of hiding the ball, as they would say. They were not telling him what was going on. He looked genuinely surprised when they said, "Did you know that this guy from Atlantic Magazine was in on your call?" And he goes, "What? I didn't know anything about it." Well, Atlantic Magazine, they're going out of business.
They're going out of business.
They're going out of business.
Yeah,
so the first thing he does, they're so over. He takes a swipe at Atlantic Magazine instead of going, "Really? I didn't know. Let me look into it."
The first form of defense is attack. You know, I mean, Europe's over as well. If you look at what was written, Europe finished over. Oh dear. I mean, we are laughing, but I mean, it's pretty serious for national security. And in fact, there's been a National Security Senate meeting today, which I believe was planned. Certainly, the Republican Senator Tom Cotton, who opened it, didn't even touch on this story. But of course, as soon as it went to a Democrat, basically it was claws out, and basically. A pattern of cavalier attitudes to classified information, sloppy, careless, incompetent behaviour should end in sackings.
All true.
Mark Warner.
Somebody should lose their job over this. They won't.
Mark Warner's been making hay on this today.
Yeah, this is him. But he was from early on in morning television, like 6 a.m. Eastern time. He was on the attack, and they just let him go and let it rip. And but he's definitely got people riled up over this whole thing. Now, is anything going to happen? Is anybody going to lose their job?
That's what they're calling for.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Tulsi Gabbard was on speaking in this meeting. Didn't even mention it. Was asked if she was in the group. Didn't answer.
Oh, I see. Wouldn't her name be on the call sheet, so to speak? Yeah.
You don't know, but yeah, you don't get to be Atlantic editor-in-chief for not, if you don't know your onions. But apparently he's just been discredited as a sleazeball journalist, according to Mr. Trump.
Yeah, from everything I've read, and the Atlantic is a very right-wing conservative publication, very reputable, even among people who are liberal or swing from the left. So there's nothing. I don't think anybody's looking at the Atlantic thinking that they've done anything wrong. The one nice thing as a journalist is that the guy who's the editor-in-chief, who's posting this, who created the story, let's just say who was on the back end of the story, he didn't reveal any of these secrets. He didn't go out ahead of it and say, hey, this is going to happen. He
really could have done an expose.
He could have done it, and thank God he didn't.
Anyway, he's getting it from left, right, and centre. And Musk on X. This is Musk. Best place to hide a dead body is page 2 of the Atlantic magazine because no one ever goes there.
Oh my! See what happens when you have an hour drive into the studio, I missed all of this, and came in and so much had happened in the past 90 minutes or so.
Caroline Levitt was talking ahead of this meeting. Basically, no war plans were discussed, she said. These are the facts. No classified material was sent to the thread. The White House counsel's office has provided guidance on a number of different platforms for President Trump's top officials to communicate as safely and as efficiently as possible. Basically, almost total denial there.
Yeah, but what they did know is that the bombing was going to occur at a certain hour. And as the editor-in-chief said, it happened exactly at that minute. Mm-hmm. So...
CI Director John Ratcliffe has admitted he was on the group. He said, argues that the information shared was not classified. He also said, this was happening in the Biden era. We just took it over.
Oh, gotta blame Joe. Poor Joe. Joe is sitting at home in Delaware.
What? Not me again?
Joe, they're talking about you again. Okay, let me get my cocoa.
Oh, dear.
So,
right. Yeah, I mean, it's just fortuitous that this Intel Senate meeting was today, obviously, but it's still ongoing, and it rapidly overtook our main thrust of things today, which of course we were going to start out with the talks between Russia and the US and Ukraine and the US. It seems that the easiest place to start, and it's not an easy situation, of course, trying to get these peace talks off and running, but the Black Sea ceasefire deal seemed to be something that could be achieved. And of course, in order to get things off and running, you need to try and achieve something. Ukraine's Defense Minister Rustem Umerov has said it has agreed to ensure safe navigation, eliminate the use of force and prevent the use of commercial vessels for military purposes in the Black Sea. The White House said Russia's agreed to safe navigation in the Black Sea as well. And those talks have been held today and yesterday, in fact, the day before, I believe, as well, in Saudi Arabia. So some movement then there, but of course the bombing hasn't stopped. I mean, that's just continued, unabated, both sides.
And everything that we're hearing indicates that Russia may be ready to do something, but they know that they control the cards on this thing. And that my big problem is this guy, Steve Witkoff, who is the Trump spokesperson, went on with Tucker Carlson, who's a right-wing journalist.
That was just unbelievable.
Yeah, saying that Ukraine was a false country, that Russia had been provoked, Putin was a man of his word. I can't believe he's even saying this stuff.
Actually, I thought it was Dmitry Peskov, the Russian spokesperson, because that's who it sounded like.
Yeah. So it sounds like. It's bad news for Ukraine all the way around. I do hope this ceasefire does happen, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. And
there was a strange quote in there as well, because I'm concerned, and we've spoken about this before, about Trump and his officials' understanding of history, where he's saying that basically these parts of Ukraine were Russian since World War II anyway. Well, actually,
no.
if you think about the Soviet Union, with a lot of that area, that is now free Europe, was part of the Soviet Union after the Second World War as well. So is he counting those places in as well as being Russian?
Well, they're not even looking at the fact that
my friend in the Czech Republic doesn't agree.
They got. I'll tell you something. They got all of these countries were made free in around 1989 to 92, and so I don't know.
To be honest,
so many lies.
Wouldn't surprise me if they rip up that deal as well. Because come on, let's face it, they're the same with Budapest and Minsk. So
Oh boy, wouldn't that be awful?
Well,
okay.
Never a day without surprises when we're dealing with the current U.S. administration. Right at the forefront of world headlines, not least in Greenland, where the leader there says U.S. officials visiting is highly aggressive. I saw Trump in the Oval Office saying it's just friendliness, not provocation at all.
Well, that's why they sent J.D. Vance's wife over. I figured she was pretty benign, but apparently she's trying to swing some sort of a hard-edged deal with them. I just don't think this thing
I thought she was going for the dog sledding.
I don't know. She could could be there. Maybe she's
to
at
watch the island's national dog sledge race. Apparently.
Could be.
Celebrate
Could be.
Greenlandic culture and unity. I'm just reading from the White House official document here. Mike Waldstow, of course, is also going over.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he's the national security advisor, right? Yeah.
Yep. So they're making another stab at this. They'll keep sending people over until something clicks. Whether they go ahead and decide to become part of the U.S., that remains to be seen. I don't think so. I would hope not.
Well, it seems that they don't want.
Yeah, they don't want it.
But
but they are about to hold an election.
Indeed, and of course it's almost electioneering interference.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, but there are only 53,000 people, or 57,000 live on that island.
One person counts, not only.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Highly populated, but they're still a people, and they still count. They don't want to be the 51st state. I don't think anybody wants to be the 51st state anymore.
They don't, except for Puerto Rico. They do.
It is the 51st state.
Yeah, they do want to be the 51st state, but they won't do it. That's a layup. That's an easy one. Just make Puerto Rico one of your states.
You'd probably take in Venezuela, a couple of other South American countries.
Venezuela.
Anyway.
Oh boy,
solve all your problems, wouldn't it?
We're talking about all.
Wouldn't have any immigration issues anymore.
We're talking about states 52, 53, 54 today. Venezuela.
We'll get there. That's also on the agenda this afternoon. So what is Trump, he actually said we'll get it eventually, didn't he? When he was talking about Greenland,
he really,
great.
I think he's thinking that he could just go in with raw force and take it. I think that is the thing that is in the back of his mind.
Putin seems to have got away with it.
Yeah, well, that's true, and I'd like to say that's not the American way, but it kind of is. It has been in the past.
Again,
just hasn't been for a long time.
We're not blaming all Americans here, just the current administration.
just the current administration. But look back in the year 1900 and the way we annexed the Philippines and the way we annexed Cuba. It is kind of a thing that we
actually Grenada.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, now you made me think about it.
Now, what are these other,
So maybe that's the history book that they're reading.
That's it. That's it.
Right. Okay. Now we better have another read of that to see what else is going to happen.
We go.
I you can't see them going in really with force to take over European countries.
But I think he thinks that the more that you say it, the more it's going to become a reality.
He's already believing it, yeah.
He does believe it. It's like Greenland and annexing Canada. As much as Canadians say, we are not going to be the 51st state. We're enjoying being Canadian. It's not going to happen. But
of course, now we have elections coming up in Canada, too.
Yeah. And that's but I don't think either of the people who are potentially the new prime minister, because I think they're probably going to have a turnover in that seat, as from what we can tell, because if the Conservative Party wins, then they're going to appoint their own. If the Liberal Party wins, they will have the Mr. Carney, who is currently serving in the chair. He's been in there, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and he's the one that's called the election, right?
Yeah.
Obviously for clarification and a mandate. But there are 3 or 4 people in the running. We were researching this. We didn't get into our brief today.
I think a lot of them
have a look at it.
I think a lot of Americans are unclear about this whole thing about leaders calling for elections. Like Carney is calling
because America aren't going to have any anymore, you mean?
No, we're done. We're done. Trump himself said that.
Else he wants, yeah.
But it's like where somebody who is in the chair. So Carney has he is the prime minister, and he turns around and says, "You know what? I don't have a mandate, so I think we're going to have an election." And I'm going, well, you can end up being defeated. Why would you do that? That's seceding. That's ceding your power.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Trump's looking to make sure, like Putin did, like Lukashenko did, like Erdogan's trying.
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
Okay.
It's a wicked world.
We're off.
Okay, let's move on. Kirsty Noem, Homeland Security head.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a strange fit, that one, isn't it, for some people? Yourself included.
Well, that's right. She thinks that because she's from she's a law and order person who knows how to shoot a gun, that she's capable. But
she knows how to shoot a cat, wasn't it? Was it a cat?
No, the dog.
The dog. That's right.
She shot a puppy. But what she's talking about is getting rid of FEMA. She's the head of FEMA. See, this is like the whole I'm going to call an election so I can be voted out of office. But the head of education calling for the demolition of her own department. Kristi Noem is saying that we should get rid of FEMA. What she's talking about, though, is, and what Trump is talking about, is taking the whole emergency response thing and sticking under a different department. But the problem is
under different states in their own departments. Like
no. Under a different different federal department. So it would be under Department of State, or probably under, from what I'm hearing, under the Department of Interior. That's just transferring the whole thing. It is eliminating one cabinet position, but that cabinet position was created right after 9/11. Homeland Security has only been around for 25 years, but 24 years. So the fact that she wants to get rid of FEMA at a time when the Carolinas right now are undergoing wildfires like crazy, and those people really need it. And California's just had, with their 40 million residents, they're going through storms right now on the tail end of course, all those wildfires. Of course, and it's always something about California, but now the Carolinas. But to step up while these people need help, while they need money, while they've lost their homes, we're in, and we've talked about this a couple of weeks ago, for the American Midwest.
If you wait to avoid an environmental disaster at the moment, then nothing's going to ever happen.
And we're in the middle of we're in tornado and hurricane season right now. And so what's going to happen is that all those people are going to need it. So for the head of the department to step up and say, I think my department should be done away with because people don't need me, or there's so much waste. We talk about this every week. Of course there's waste. But to get rid of a department where people need financial assistance makes no sense.
Yeah, trim the fat, not take a chainsaw to it.
There you go.
We've said it now for about 4 weeks in a row. Keep on saying it.
Thank you, Buddha.
Okay, let's move on to things medical, which is also under the firing line. More US states are reporting measles cases. Vaccine misinformation to blame in Ohio, Maryland, and Alabama, apparently. 378 confirmed cases in the first few months of 2025. There are a number of cases in Europe, although they call it medically, Europe stretches right across Asia as well. So, when they say, there are some cases across Europe, they're talking, about further down in the area that's classed medically, the continent. But there are cases.
Are you talking about Eastern Europe?
It's
mainly.
way further,
farther.
Yeah. I didn't realise that when they classify the European continent medically, they go all the way around. So, but there are cases in what they call Europe medically, as well as in the States. 378 though in the first few months of 2025. It doesn't sound like a lot, does it? Is that?
It does, but it does sound like a lot to me because measles was almost completely eradicated, and then there were a couple of cases that picked up in Texas, and now Texas has 309 of those. What do we say? 378, and so Texas is. I believe most of them are in West Texas, and there are a lot of wide open spaces out there, and these are a lot of small towns. The people aren't vaccinated. They kind of listen to what Trump and what RFK Jr. say, and that is the entire problem.
It is highly transmissible, of course.
Highly transmissible. All you need to do is come into contact with somebody who doesn't have it, who isn't vaccinated, and even people who are vaccinated are getting them, and that's a bit of a problem because
even if somebody's been in the room 2 hours later, you could still get it.
Yeah, and of course, but one of the problems is that even if you are an adult and you were vaccinated years ago, I don't know about you, but I was vaccinated when I was 10 years old, so that was like 3 years ago when I was vaccinated, and when walking in rhythm was on the charts.
So how long do these vaccines last? Is it for life?
No, they don't last for life. That's the problem. Where people who are older, people who are over the age of 50, are really susceptible to this sort of thing.
For a long time, the combined vaccine, measles, mumps, and rubella, has been coming under fire.
Yeah. One thing that I find to be kind of interesting is one of the, the people who are mostly dying now are children. because they've been unvaccinated. But the parents of one of the children who died appeared in a video on Monday with the Children's Health Defense, and it's an vaccine organization that used to be run by Kennedy. And she is quoted as saying, "We would absolutely not take the MMR," said the girl's mother, referring to the measles. The measles wasn't that bad. They got over it. She said of her 4 other children. So even though she lost her child, she's still defending the fact that she didn't do that. That kind of explains what sort of a mindset we're up against in these areas. These people, I won't say these people, it's a wide statement, but a lot of people there seem to feel that vaccines are part of the problem.
That certainly is. You could find it on the internet everywhere. Right, just before, I did say we'd look at a couple of medical issues. Let's talk about the US DNA testing firm 23andMe filing for bankruptcy protection. I thought they were doing very, very well at one stage.
Well, every time you saw an interview with the CEO, she seemed to indicate, "Hey, we're doing great. We got plenty of money." Apparently, not so much. They have run out of money, and that's companies go under all the time. They're looking to be bought by somebody right now.
Well, there was quite a few times when it came up, but it never actually went through, did it? Any of those?
No, it didn't. But what the big problem right now is if there's anybody listening out there who has sent in their DNA to 23andMe, what happens to that DNA? Does it get burned up? Does it get recycled? What happens to all that information? Because they now have what do they say?
There are laws in California, aren't there?
Yeah.
Which basically consumers can take control and request that a company delete their genetic data. So presumably any wind-up company would have to have that remit as well, I suppose.
Right. Well, the company is a publicly held company. They went public 4 years ago, but they have all this information. Hackers have gained information to family trees, birth years, geographic locations, and 2 months.
Well, actually,
a couple of months ago,
GlaxoSmithKline spent $300 million on getting access to that info.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So what happens to all that information about your family?
That's where Big Pharma comes in and starts to worry you, isn't it?
It's a problem. It's a problem. So the big question, what's going to happen to those 8 million people who have information being held in captivity by 23andMe?
Okay, last one on the medical front. The US cutting HIV aid will cost millions of lives, according to the UNAids chief. Millions of lives.
Well, this is all part of the US AID thing, and that being cut up. Right now, the courts are looking at that, whether or not that's legal, whether or not they can even be broken up like that without going through the courts, going through a procedure. So there is a chance, and I think a lot of those people have been asked to come back to work. Where things stand right now, because things are happening very, very quickly, I don't really know. But the
numbers are just incredible. It will lead to an additional 2,000 new HIV infections every day and over 6 million further deaths over the next 4 years if this aid doesn't continue.
Those of us who are over a certain age, over 40, can remember what it was like when AIDS was a thing.
Prince wrote a song about
back in right. That's right. And from in 2004, there were 2 million people who had HIV/AIDS. Now it's down to 600,000, and that number has been falling every year, mainly in underdeveloped countries. It's not as big a problem in developed countries like the U.S. or Spain or the U.K., but in places like Africa, if aid is cut and these vaccines are not available,
and it's not just the U.S. because Europe have also been talking about cutting their aid in this area as well.
Well, it used to be the disease that everybody was talking about because it was very visual and as you say, songs and movies were created about it. But now everybody thought, it was cured. Nobody has AIDS anymore. 600,000 people still have AIDS, and so now is not the time to take the foot off the accelerator and start, cutting back on the amount of money to help these countries.
European universities are offering scientific asylum to U.S. researchers fleeing Trump's cuts.
Yeah, this is kind of like, doesn't this remind you of right before World War II?
Brain drain.
When Einstein left and Werner von Braun left in 1945, and, to put
There was
together
a big scrabble at the end of the war
Right.
as well between the Americans and the Soviets, trying to hoover up all of the rocket scientists.
That's right. Well, the same thing is happening now. Is that everybody's being preemptive. The Belgian-based jobs advertisement. Far from typical, looking for academic freedom. Hey, if you want to, I guess, have a job and come on over here.
It's not just funding freezes and cuts, is it? It's the ideological impositions.
Yeah. They seem to want to be driving all the smart people away, and it's
question them.
It's not like they're going to leave and come over here and see how really crappy the lifestyle is.
Back in the 1930s again.
We are. When they come over, they're not leaving. I mean, they'll stay here. Mm-hmm. They'll stay here. So I don't know. It's just kind of terrible that you're driving all the smart people away and all the
keeping
academians.
all the dumb people in the cabinet.
I know. Oh my God! You know what? We got 3.5 more years of this nonsense.
Yeah, that's not long.
It's not long.
It'll be okay.
I mean, I'll be dead, but
we think it's only 3.5
You're
years.
a young man.
He hasn't quite got the kingship done yet, so
No.
you never know. All right, we continue. The Pentagon's DEI purge. Officials are describing a scramble to remove and then restore online content. We touched on this with a story last week as well, didn't we?
We did talk about this and how anything to do with DEI, they're putting AI to the test. Anything with the words gay or black or women, they're looking on that as these people were all granted their medals of honor and any sort of accolades.
Yeah, but you know what also happened with this, of course? This DEI AI isn't that great because it took out the Enola Gay plane as well.
It did. And then they say, no, it didn't. That's an urban myth. It did not happen. We know it did happen. We know it did happen. But all these people, like taking Jackie Robinson, who is not a hero in the UK or in Europe, but he was
baseball civil rights activist, right? Yeah.
First black player in baseball in 1947. He's a national hero. He's been a national hero since the very beginning. And to erase anything to do with him, they erase things about Rosa Parks.
The Tuskegee Airmen, there was a big movie about that. I mean, what do they do? Erase all the copies of the movie as well?
You're trying to erase your history. I mean, it's one thing to not be proud of things, but these are people they should be proud of.
What I don't get is, like, it'd be so anti-woke, and yet that was happening under some woke tenureships that, history was being deleted.
Yeah.
And now we're just seeing it happen in the name of anti-woke history being deleted.
So now they're just taking any major historical heritage sites that had any kind of postings about women, ethnic groups, or racial groups. Let's read into it. Let's just say it, non-white male. That's the whole thing. This is an entire attack on anything that is not a white male, and there are words for that. And the whole process is going to take months. But a lot of them. The good news is there's been so much outcry against Jackie Robinson, against Rosa Parks being taken off, the Tuskegee Airmen taking those off, that they're putting them all back on. But the problem is that
what have they taken off?
What do they do with it?
Yeah.
What do they do with it? I mean, they go through and they just erased it. Then somebody's got to create it again, and that's got to be proofed and added back in. So the bottom line is, of course, it should never have been taken.
You might end up doing something stupid like deleting all of the nuclear scientists and then realizing that you'd done that and then not even be able to contact them again to reemploy. Oh, no, they did that, didn't they?
Oh, yes, that's right.
They did do that.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the deportation flights in Venezuela. Countries have agreed to resume repatriations. There was an injunction, wasn't there? So what's happened now?
Well, it's a story that's evolving right now, that they took these supposed gang members who were Venezuelan gang. We did it, I think, even 2 weeks ago. We did this, and they sent them to was it Nicaragua? They sent it to Nicaragua, and part of the reason why what Trump said was because Venezuela didn't want them back, he was going to authorize the boycotting of any country that spends money
Don't buy their oil.
on their oil.
Yeah.
Right. So he turned this into a deal. So in other words, if you are purchasing Venezuelan oil and you do business with the U.S., you now are subject to, get ready, a 25% tariff on whatever
Not
you
200, though.
Not 200,
No.
25%. So they're trying to squeeze all these other countries, of the 200 countries or so in the world who are doing business with the U.S., and are a lot of them, as we know, Venezuela has a lot of oil, and and that is like their main weapon in their economy. And it looks like they're getting squeezed right now into taking these gang members back, and the president of Venezuela is saying, "Okay, we have a deal. We'll take them back." So this thing, but it's an ongoing story, as
Yeah,
if
it is.
everything with Trump.
Okay. I know you want to get this one in.
Oh boy.
The White House Easter egg roll. What's it all about, Alfie?
Well, the Easter egg roll has been happening at the White House since Benjamin Harrison was president back in 1876, 1878, somewhere around there. And what they do is kids come with their parents, they roll Easter eggs. It's a whole Easter thing on the lawn. It's very festive. It's kind of a photo op. It's a chance for the president and the first lady to walk around and say hello to kids and just glad hand. Trump is selling the rights and selling sponsorships to the Easter egg roll.
Rutherford B. Hayes
we don't know.
turning in his grave.
Could be, but I'm telling you, it's so outrageous that he's trying to make money and trying to pocket money.
He's not going to pocket the money, surely.
Oh, surely not. He won't see a dime from this. Please.
He's already done that big Tesla advert. At the front.
He says it's Tesla. But he's so he's looking to prosper a little bit from this Easter egg hunt, which is coming up in a few weeks.
Okay.
And it's like, I don't know. But maybe, do we have time to talk about the Chinese story?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
We're done?
We're done.
Oh, we'll talk about the Chinese electric car story next week.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
Okay. All righty.
There'll be still plenty of stuff going on with
All
that
right.
one. Wow.
What a day, what a day.
Got to hang on to your hat to get through this stuff, haven't you? And we've dropped about 5 stories that we did want to put in today.
We did.
But heck, it's just 100 miles an hour.
It is.
On US stuff. Thanks
Okay,
very
bud.
much indeed, our US correspondent,
All right,
Rich
bud.
Reynolds. Take it easy.
Adios.